welcome back to Late Night at the Barcade. We did it, guys. We beat the fucking curse, okay? Last episode, you may have seen, you may have heard too many breaths. It might have sounded like I was diabetic. Now, let me tell you, I'm not diabetic. I'm doing great. Okay? I exercise every day, but my audio... Okay, whatever. We haven't even started the fucking podcasting yet. Can I have a small rant? Before we begin? My mic is moving left and right. This entire thing is ruined. This entire fucking episode is just ruined already. You can't see what's going on because I don't have the webcam on. But while I'm moving, my fucking microphone is shaking left to right, which is just ruining the audio. I'm in a fucking rat room. I'm alone in a rat room. I'm insane. I'm losing my mind. Losing my marbles. We haven't even started the fucking podcast. Oh my god. Okay, let's do a proper introduction. Hey, hey, it's me. I'm John, your host. Welcome to Late Night at the Barcade. This is episode 4. It is finally, we're at a point now where we have beaten the curse. This show was made... I keep coughing. I'm so sick. Every time I start this podcast, I'm sick. Oh my lord, it's like my body decides to get fucking sick before the episode starts. I haven't even said the point I wanted to make. Sorry. The point I wanted to make was that this was the same show was done 2 years ago. I think a year ago, actually. We've had to cut out again. Anyway, back to what I was saying. If this goes on for the 4th fucking time, I'm ending the podcast right now, never making an episode again. A year ago, we did this podcast before, and I alluded to it, I think, on episode 3, there is this whole thing where once the second episode was done, the third one was recorded, and I fucking hated it, and I just removed it. I was so close to doing that this time round. Because of all the goddamn breaths, and horrible, how sick and how diabetic I sounded, I didn't want it to show. But we've decided to put it in, because I think the episode was pretty fun, and I enjoyed it, and this episode's going to be fun, too. We've got a lot of topic points to talk about today. It's episode 4, okay? Let me go down the list. Now, as per normal, as per tedium, that's not even a word. Oh my god! As per this show, a lot of shit won't be talked about. I think so far we've had the Burger Andy shit fucking be a topic point I wanted to bring up every single fucking time. Never come up once. And you might also be realizing now, a lot of this audio is going to have to be cut up a lot because apparently I'm sick now. I've had a coffee, I went to take a piss, and then I felt a wave of sickness as soon as I started this. There is so much phlegm in my fucking throat, it is killing me! Alright. Anyway, topic points. We have Cheers culture. This time we're going to hopefully talk about it. We're going to talk about people who like guns and how fucking annoying it is. We've got more shit about VRchat. VRchat conversations is what we're going to be talking about. Talking about a new subscriber and their little interests. Because this is what I do in this show. Every time someone subscribes, I see it and I will bring it up on the podcast. Then we're gonna talk about this more doomerism today, because I found more doomerism stuff since the last time I started posting stuff about doomerism. And you're gonna love it, alright? And then we're gonna have a little rant. I know we've had a rant right now, and I know there's probably more rants to happen. The whole thing's a fucking rant. I've got a little rant, alright, about role-playing, because this is a podcast where I discuss, terrible behavior, and I just spilt coffee all over my fucking trousers. Right, back to it. This is a podcast that I spill shit all over myself. I complain that I'm sick. I don't get through anything. We're 5 minutes in, and I haven't even started the show. That's the show. And also, we do roleplay. Oh, I do roleplay, and then I talk about the shitty fucking experiences of it. So yeah, we do roleplay and all that, and I'll talk about it, and then we'll talk about the finale. I know this show has gone on for a bit, so I'll give a little... I think I'll talk about it a little bit now, a little bit later, right? This show has gone on... It's been very small, right? But, as I alluded to in episode 2, I was trying to get into a job. I got accepted. I have the job now. And what it means is that I will be gone for some time as I adjust to the workload, to the work, and I do the training. It's just going to be a long time, right? So this show will go on a indefinite hiatus. Indefinite, I think that's the word. This might be a better word. Until I can get back into a position where I can start posting more of these episodes. So Late Night at the Barcade's not going anywhere. I'll be back. I'll use the same channel, the same places, but we'll come back a lot stronger. I have a lot of new ideas to do, a lot of cool things. So we've got another episode. The finale is going to come out, I think, about 2 weeks, maybe a week after the next episode. This episode gets posted. And that will be episode 5, the finale. And we're hoping to have some guests on. So it's not going to be too bad. We're going to have some fun, and I'll talk about it later in the episode. For now, I'm going to let you know there's a finale coming up. Alright, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do it, and then I'm going to talk about the future then as well. But let's get back into this. Let's jump into this shit, alright? We'll start off with a little small taster, right? We're going to mention guys who talk about guns. We've inflamed everyone today, alright? By the time the finale comes around, I want every single fandom to be at my throat, right? So I've been, because of shared circles, I've had a big trend between my friends and then their friends, of people who just love talking about guns. And these are Americans. Of course they're Americans, right? And I don't want to hate all you Americans in there who love your guns and your freedom and what have you, right? But just like anything where the topic that you talk about is your entire personality, it's fucking annoying, right? I'll talk about 2 scenes. So there is a mutual friend who I will not name, who will never see this podcast, and if you ever do see this podcast, fuck you! Every single time we're having a conversation about anything, because guns are his, like, bread and butter of his life, and he loves his weapons, and he loves shooting, and he loves talking, oh, fucking my new Magnum! My Magnum! He just loves talking about his fucking guns, and giving himself, like, he puts skins on his guns and shit, and he loves shooting his guns, and he loves airsoft and all of this crap. You know, it's such a annoying topic that that people who love guns fail to realize just how uncomfortable it is for a conversation, right? You know, the guy complains that, in day-to-day, people find him uncomfortable to hang out with, and he starts talking about fucking guns. Dude, it'd be like if I talked about nukes and how well it would kill people, right? There is a stigma with weapons that it is, I understand you like shooting shit, you love the fucking adrenaline of it, right? But it's a scary topic to talk about, right? You'll talk about, oh, how well your gun shoots and how well X, Y, and Z happens. I'm sure with your crowd, right, the guys who love guns probably have a great time talking to other guys who love guns, right? But when I'm sitting down playing Valheim with you, and we're talking about Valheim bows and which one we should pick up, I don't want to talk about guns, okay? Like, where's the mentality? I want to fucking strangle you is what I want to do every time you bring up guns. If anyone brings up guns in a normal fucking conversation, it's like bringing up politics when you're sitting down playing a video game, and these people do the same thing. So it's going to be a double fucking conversation here. It's guys who talk about guns and guys who talk about politics. And guess what? This mutual friend talks about both, and it annoys me. Like, I think, when you're sitting down at a dinner table, right, with other people, there are conversations you don't bring up because it sucks. Politics is one of them. It sucks. Who cares? Like, it's just an argument. You're not agreeing. And if you agree, it's just, you're both sucking each other off. And you might be sitting there, oh, John, it's only because you've had bad interactions. I understand, okay? I've had great interactions with people talking about politics, right? But at the end of the day, it's so dry and boring. And if you're someone who doesn't like politics, or someone who doesn't like talking about politics, or someone who doesn't like talking about guns, you can never be involved in the conversation because there's nothing to do. Like, you can feign interest and be like, "Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more." And I know plenty of people who do in a conversation, but it's so dry and unfun. When you're bringing up shit, when you're sitting down with friends you don't know in a position where it's like, "Okay, we're going to bring up topics that we can both talk about, right? We can create a conversation." Politics is never the conversation because it always ends with two different fucking side of like viewpoints, right? Two different viewpoints talking to each other in an argument because it always does, because politics always does that. And you might be looking, "Oh, you're in the bad circumstances." Give me sit down, understand that you're sitting down with two random people you hardly know, and you're talking about politics and guns while we're playing a video game. I don't care about your gun. And these people I meet, when these things begin, and I'm not talking about just normal everyday people, right? You can have a fascination with politics and enjoy discussing politics. It's when it's your personality that's fucking annoying. You can make it your personality. No, there is nothing wrong with making something your personality. You're dry and basic, and you should fucking try and develop some sense of social tact and learn to, I don't know, have a conversation instead of a talk to me. I'm not a fucking brick wall. I want to have an interaction. We can talk about anything. And look, we all to a degree, in fairness, right? When people talk about these things that are very, very much their personality, in fairness, everyone has that to a degree, right? To me, it's like, fucking, if I didn't have this podcast and I had people listening to the podcast, there's probably a decent amount who care about the, me talking about depravity and shitty fucking behavior. That's what I enjoy. And I understand when I'm sitting down in a conversation, because it's happened before, right? When I'm sitting down in a conversation, people don't like, sometimes, when I'm bringing stuff up about, like, "Oh, this guy fucking masturbated in fucking VRchat, and this is what it means, and this is what it means. Now he has a fucking Reddit account." Because I find that interesting. Not everyone's gonna find that interesting. But it's these type of people, and I've spilt my coffee again. Oh my fucking god. And it's these type of people, right? Who, when you talk to them about these things, they don't have the understanding to, like, realize that the other two people standing there have not engaged with your conversation. I I don't give a shit about politics because I know at the end of the day, you think you're right and I don't know enough information because I'm not a guy who sits down and fucking cites 15 sources, right? You can ask me about Dark Souls lore and I can probably tell you more about it, right? Because I'm a fucking autist. But like, in these situations, stop saying oh my god. I'm sorry. I can't even like say a single conversation. There are two words that I bring up in a conversation, which is and like. I should be better than this. Anyway. This whole podcast is just ruined. We're 15 minutes in and nothing's been said. I've got 7 more topic points to bring up. Anyway, so yeah, we're having these conversations and all of these things are going on and they're bringing up politics. Like how do me and you have a conversation here, right? About what's going on. Understand. This is going to be a very quick one because we've got more shit to talk about. Understand that most people don't know what you're talking about, and when you're sitting in a day-to-day, right? It's a skill you have to learn. I'm gonna pat you on the side of the fucking cheek and tell you it's a skill you have to learn. But please fucking put the effort in to learn just how to have a normal conversation, because you don't have to talk about politics and guns, because I don't give a shit. And when I try to placate you, don't immediately go, oh, now this is an invitation for me to talk more about politics. No! It's just like anime. It's just like anything. It's when people make it their fucking personalities, right? That it becomes a goddamn problem. Learn to be able to talk about other things, right? And if you're talking about guns, and if you're talking about anime, and you're talking about politics, understand there are like little segments to these fucking conversations that you can bring into everyday life and have a normal conversation with. You don't have to tell me your favorite fucking friend's Trump and you don't believe he's a pedophile. I don't give a shit. We're talking about Valheim. I just said a frost troll fucking killed me. I don't want to know about the Epstein files. I'm sitting down playing a video game with you. A friend of mine told me a story when we were speaking about this, because often what I try to do with a lot of my topic points is I'll bring it up to friends and be like, oh, is this an interesting topic point? And they mentioned, and I won't name the friend, but they mentioned having someone they met in like a mutual, again, another mutual of a mutual. And the guy, clearly not the greatest individual at talking to people, is sitting down, and the first point of reference he begins a conversation with is talking about his guns. This is a stranger who, at no point, from what I was told in the conversation, mentioned anything about weapons. They were just like, I think they were introduced, oh, this is my friend who does art. And then they go into talking about guns. Have we forgotten, right, that when we talk about something that is obviously our autistic beliefs and enjoyment, right, have we forgotten that in order to do that, we have to gauge whether this person wants to hear that? I mean, think for a second, right? You're sitting down. Let me play a scene, right? You're this individual who says, talks about guns. You're this individual who makes politics your entire conversation. Imagine this, right? You're sitting down at a table, right? It's, you know, it's a later on in the year. You didn't want to come here, but you've been forced, right? Your parents have said for the past couple of years that they want to have a family gathering, right? And you don't like your extended family. You know, they're a weird bunch who you haven't really had the time to interact with. You've met them maybe when there was a funeral, and I think at one of the weddings, your cousin's wedding, I think you think you met some of these people, but never have you had them in your home, right? So you're upstairs. You've heard a lot of people because you're a socially inept guy, and you just got off your headset. You've just finished playing VRchat, and you had to say goodbye to your friends reluctantly because you have to show up. Your parents expect you to show up, and it's your family. There is that kind of moral expectation that you're going to show up, right? But because you're a little socially inept, you're a little scared, you're a little nervous, and that's fine. You have waited a bit while most people have come in. You don't want to be the kind of guy who waits to the very end to come in, or waits till the food arrives. You want a couple of people to linger in first, right? And then, while everyone else, the rest of the family linger in, then you come down, right? And so you've come down. You've come down to the room. They're in the living room. You know, a cheese spread's already placed for you. Your dad's talking to your uncle, who you've never met before. Your cousins are in the backyard playing fucking football. And you're talking to your family. You get a basic idea. You have your grandma come in, and she says she hasn't seen you since you were a little lad, and your aunties are saying a very similar thing. You know, you've never met these people before in your life, but they seem to know you. And it's odd. It's odd. It truly is. And you don't quite know what to say, right? You're in a position where, you know, you haven't, outside of VRchat, these normal little interactions are much for you, right? They are too much. You struggle, and you can only really afford in these situations to just nod your head and agree, right, with a lot of what's saying. And the night winds in, more family come in, you do your hugs, you say, it's been a while, you'll smile at their jokes, and then dinner arrives. You're all sitting in your parents, your parents and your brother spent the last hour putting together free tables so that you have enough room for your extended family, and it's cramped. It truly is. You know, you're sitting on a metal stool while everyone else sits on the nicer chairs, and you're squished up now with your cousin to your left and your uncle to your right. The plates are being passed around. You know, there's food on the table. You've taken your bites. You didn't want to get too much because you know your uncle will bring up something about how you're looking fat or you're eating too much, and you don't want that anymore. Your aim is to finish this dinner and quietly go back up to your VR chat room, and all your friends are going to talk about guns, and you get to compare your guns, right? And you're sitting at the table, and for the first time, you are listening in. You know, the hours are going by, the dinner is taking its time, and you're finding that window for when you're able to go back to your room and play and VR chat is dwindling. It's getting smaller and smaller, so you have no choice but to listen in. Perhaps waste around some time and maybe find a way to, you know, get out of this conversation. And you're listening in, and, you know, this family are talking and talking, and then they bring up politics. And for the first time in your life, your little neurons activate. And you start bringing up a topic. You go in and out about how you hate Trump and how you love Biden and how X, Y, and Z is the case and Trump's actually a good guy. And, you know, you're walking around the room, you're talking, and then you realize you've spoken for 5 minutes straight and the whole room's gone silent. No one knows how to interact with you. And you realize then and there that although they were talking about the topic and briefly mentioned it, they at no point wanted to talk to this level. They've never seen you like this before. You never created the small little links and small little threads of information and conversation. You never had that. They didn't expect you to speak in the first place, and then you spoke for 5 minutes. And someone asks you a question. You know, it's very one note. And you talk for another 3 minutes. Another rant. The room goes silent. There are small little interactions between your family members, but they're all looking at you, and you sit there wondering why. Why you have had this conversation. They clearly wanted to talk about politics or mentioned it briefly. Because in your mind, you don't have the necessary capacity to understand this is not the time. And it's a difficult lesson to learn, because when you're someone who is chronically online, right, who plays VR chat every day, on VR chat there is the conversations are, this is my shit, this is my shit, this is my shit, and the other guy goes, this is my shit, this is my shit, this is my shit, right? And it's like a fucking pantomime when you're bringing up something and everyone goes, we agree with that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It isn't like that in real life. And you've never had the capacity to understand that until now. So you're sitting there, the room has gone quiet, and someone else either makes a joke or starts bringing up another point, and as soon as that happens, you're gone from the conversation. And it doesn't dwell on you that was your fault for ranting about something that no one could join in with. You take it by an offense. You leave the room, go back to VR chat, and surround yourself with the same people, the same yes men, the same people with the same views as you, and you continue to talk. You continue to digest the vile bile that foams from your mouth. It burns your throat and your mind as you continue to digest despite the pain, despite the fact that you've now surrounded yourself with a group of yes men who abide with every single topic point you bring up. And you like it that way. You don't care that in normal situations, when VR chat dies down and your friend group dies down, You don't care that you won't have the capacity to interact in a normal day-to-day, as in a conversation, in a normal day-to-day conversation, right? Because it doesn't matter to you. Right now, you are surrounded by like men. You don't realize it. You don't understand that you, in order to have friends in those and have interactions and have positive conversations with others, you have to learn to have those positive interactions. Because to you, it's so easy to digest this fucking bile. It's easy, it's there before you. The taste goes, the pain has subsided as the taste goes down easier and easier, bite by bite. I don't know where the moral of the story is, but the moral is, please, fucking, for the love of God, have a normal conversation and understand that the little yes men around you, not that good for you. All right, you're all a bunch of fucking starved men or women, because we're inclusive here, sitting in a fucking circle jerk, right? Eating your goddamn bile as it burns your throat, as your mind fucking degrades. As all you can say is the same line over and over and over again. That's why it's good to have friends with differing fucking opinions, right? Because eventually you get to a point where, you know, you're in a circle of people who agree with you, and you have no way of getting out of that, right? Because it's so comfortable. This will be our second point. It's not even there in the thing, but we'll talk about this. Like, when you are someone like this, right? It's so easy to fall into like these. Stop saying like these groups of, you know, like-minded, yeah, like-minded people who, you know. So it's such a, because people who are like this, who make them their personalities, often are surround themselves with people who have also made that their personality. So you create times where, like, stop saying like, sorry, these people are in these environments that placate them, right? That continue to spill the same information, reinforce bad habits, reinforce bad ideals, and create a situation where all you're talking about is fucking politics or something else, you know? And it's in these environments where you do lose yourself to a degree, right? This is like this for everyone. We have all been there at one point where we have found ourselves surrounded by those who agree with everything we say, and we find out that when we are approached with those who do disagree or who agree at a point not similar to you, that it is impossible for you to interact with them because you've surrounded yourself with this viscous, this black mold of friends that create faces and opinions that are sort of different, but are all just the same fucking blob, right? And you're a part of that blob. That is all you are. And look, you can live in that comfortable fucking environment all you want, but it is fucking autistic. You've got to understand that if you want something more than that, like these two individuals I mentioned, the one that my friend met, and the one that that I know, who want to have more friends outside of that you have to let go of the bile, alright? Take it out of your mouth. It's gonna burn like heck, right? And it's gonna be uncomfortable at times. But if you want more than just that, understand that you have to stop swallowing the bile, alright? It's fine to learn more things than one, so you have multiple things to talk about in a conversation, right? Read a book. That's what I say. One of the important things about that individual my friend mentioned was that when confronted with the idea that, like, because the friend mentioned, oh, I don't really like guns, their response was, and I quote, explodes. Yeah, that was it. It was explodes. That's all they said. Because they couldn't comprehend someone did not want to talk about guns, A, and And they didn't have the capacity to talk about anything other than that. So the conversation just went silent. And she told me there went like a couple of minutes where they just stopped talking. And I came to find because I asked, because I've been in VRchat for a long time. This just reminded me of a VRchat individual, right? Or this type of like degeneracy. Turns out, yeah, they were a VR chatter. And this is a perfect segue into the conversation because of my next point. People like this, right? So easily, people in VRchat, people in Reddit, people in all of these weird environments, right? So easily make these like explodes, goober, this one. It becomes such a norm to use this fucking terminology, I will call it, this language, to describe your everyday normalcy in a way that is just to placate their sense of not knowing how to speak, right? You know, it's weird and it's uncomfortable. I have known individuals in the VRchat space who have ingratiated this way of speaking to a degree that it now forms the basis of their conversation in real life. And I want to talk about it. So for a bit of context, right? VRchat, for those who do not know, and for those who know, has with it, like many other groups, and it's not just specific to VRchat, has with it a way of speaking, a terminology that has become so ingratiated in the people that you hear it in the day-to-day. So words like people calling each other goobers, this one is something one will say. So instead of being like, oh, this friend, they'll say this one, right? Like, that's fucking normal. Ugh. Stuff like, I have a whole list because I spoke with my friend, the one I mentioned, for I think a couple of hours. They'll say words like oomphy, mimir, goobers, this one explodes. There's probably fucking hundreds of more words, right? It's fucking annoying, right? Because I'll be talking to a normal fucking individual, or one who I think is a normal fucking individual, and normal people who have functioning brain cells, and because they exist on the VRchat space, they will use words like this one to describe other people. They will say oomphy as opposed to saying comfy. They will say mimir, apparently because a mimir means like sleeping. You know when fucking in the cartoons people go fucking ZZZ, you know? It's supposed to be a cuter way of saying MMM. And maybe I'm old. Maybe I'm fucking a washed up podcasting chud boomer fucking Miku loving chud. And maybe you're right. But when people say this in normal conversation, I feel like a part of my brain explodes and I start pouring blood out of my pores. It comes down my face into my eyeballs and gives me fucking red eye. That's how I feel every time someone says it. And I've seen individuals and I've known individuals who will go up to someone in a normal conversation and will say this one, oomphy, or goobers. They will call people goobers. And it is so goddamn uncomfortable, right? It is the same way with anything when you're bringing this weird conversation and weird dialect into the real life. Let's paint a picture, right? You're in a club. All right, it's a late night. It's a late night at the Barcade. Well, you're at a Barcade, right? And the individuals there are a bit weird. As you know, we're all a bit of a fucking nerds who go to barcades, right? And you're sitting down at a table. This is your first time out, right? You're all alone. You've had a couple bits to drink, and you've gone to the barcade because it's a bit of a safe space for you, right? You're gonna have some fucking, I don't know, pizza. You're gonna have another beer. You're maybe gonna enjoy the atmosphere. You don't really want to interact with others, but you're in a position where it's been a bad week, and you want to end it with something a little calm. Maybe put on your headphones and listen to some audio while hearing the audio, and the atmosphere around you, and being surrounded by others, but not exactly in conversation with others, right? And, you know, you're alone here. You haven't brought a car because you can't. You've already had something to drink. You've walked down here. It's about 20 minutes home. It's a late night, right? And you're someone who doesn't really. You've always felt quite uncomfortable when people approach you, especially when you're alone, right? This is a perfectly normal thing, right? You're a normal person, and the person we're talking about is just you in this circumstance, right? And you're sitting down, you're having your pizza, and you get up to have a walk around, right, while listening to your music. And you're sitting there watching other people play games, and you get a tap on your shoulder. Already, alarm bells fucking ring, right? Firstly, who touches each other in just basic fucking stuff, right? Don't tap my shoulder. You're thinking this could be, I don't know, an employee maybe who's going to kick you out. Maybe you've done something wrong. So you turn around in alarm, and it isn't an employee. You know the employees wear their little fucking pizza tops, right? You've always found it a little bit cringy, but, you know, it's the aesthetic of the barcade. But this guy is not. You're standing there with this much taller man before you, right? You know, they're a lot heavier than you. They are quite weighty. Not calling you fat, but they're quite weighty, right? And they sit above you. They breathe in and out on their podcast that makes them sound diabetic. And they keep saying and like. Anyway, that's beyond the point. They're talking to you, right? And you are in a position where you, firstly, didn't want to talk to this guy. You're now in a position where you can't quite tell this person to go away. And the guy says to you, in his whole little rant, from what you remember hearing, he calls you a goober. He says, he mentions some person who comes over, who's, again, a big weighty dude, and calls him this one. Says he's a bit of an oomphy, and calls you a goober. And, you know, this kind of word and terminology frightens you a little bit. Because the terminology this person is using displays to you that this individual is one who may lack A, social tact and any sort of social awareness, which is scary when they're a lot larger than you, and you're alone, and he's brought his friend. Or B, he is mentally inept, which is also scary when you're alone and he brought his friend, right? Because this person who you're talking to doesn't understand that when they use words like this, it is so fucking creepy and weird because it's abnormal, right? When anyone says something abnormal in a time where you're just trying to have an interaction with someone, right? You don't call someone a goober, right? You don't call someone this one and use words like, you're a bit oomphy, you know? And then when they try and talk, you look to your friend and you go, and you look back to you, the person, the individual, and you say, explodes. It's annoying, right? Because you're clearly trying to do this weird little anime conversation, right? But you don't understand that you're talking to someone who doesn't know any of that shit. It is uncomfortable. It is weird because you're using completely different language, right? You are displaying a sense of that you do not understand social, you don't have social tact. You don't understand a social situation. So you also don't understand. It reinforces a case of like, this person doesn't want to be here firstly, and maybe at this point they're a little bit more calm, but they don't want to step on your boots and make you a hostile individual, right? Because you're a lot larger than them, and you could fucking do whatever you want, and no one could stop you, right? Because, and you may be thinking, the individual, the big fat guy and his fat friend, that you're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything weird, and you're perfectly fine, right? But you also are under the guise, right, that you won't do anything because, you know, it's either illegal or that's not what you do. That other person doesn't know. Okay? That other person has no fucking idea, right? And so when you're using these words to someone who doesn't know, it is creepy. Okay? And I have spoken to people who believe the same thing when they've heard these words from someone. It is incredibly creepy. Even on the online sense, right? When you've gone up to someone who, you know, it's harder when you're online to identify this person as someone who is new to something. But just like any conversation ever, with anybody ever, you don't sit there and act under the pretense that they are aware of what you're talking about because you're retarded, because that's being retarded, right? You act under the premise, and you should act under the premise, that they don't know anything that you know, because that is the normal thing to do, because it's the kind thing to do when someone doesn't know what goobers means and thinks you're being a weird fucking creep, right? If you want to have a conversation with someone, don't start off with goobers or this one, or act in a way where you start talking about politics or fucking guns, because you don't know this person knows this information. And before you sit there and say, well, how am I supposed to know then that they don't like guns? Act under the premise that they don't know, right? So just bring up normal conversations. Basic things. Like how the fucking day's gone. What they're up to. What are their interests? What are their hobbies? What they're enjoying. Realize that this person with his headphones on doesn't want to talk to you and doesn't like the fact that you've tapped on their fucking shoulder because that's weird and creepy. God, we're 44 minutes in and we've only talked about like 3 fucking points. I love this show. I love that I can talk about shit for 40 minutes and then fucking, yeah, another 30 minutes to go and I can talk more about shit. So we're in the midway point. So we're going to talk about, we've got a couple more topics to talk about. We're going to talk about the season finale, right? Because I'm very interested in this. This has been a wonderful ride and there has been a great deal of support for all the episodes I've posted so far, and everyone who's looked at it, the depressed seals of the world, my friends who have supported me along the way, friends who have said they're going to look at the podcast and enjoy it. I have friends who are coming back from long ventures who are looking at the podcast, and I appreciate all the support so far. It means the world to me. And even those who hate me, and those who hate the points that I'm bringing up, and those who will hate me in the future, and those who will love me in the future, I appreciate it all, right? Making a podcast has always been a dream of mine, and I'll talk about this again in the finale, and I am just so happy to be in a position where I'm able to create these things. And so, unfortunately, you know, because of the nature of my work coming up, I will have to go on a hiatus, and the podcast will as well, for an indefinite amount of time. If I had to give a window, about 5 months, so don't think it's like a couple of weeks or anything. It's quite some time, right? It's quite a long time that the podcast won't be around. And as soon as I get back, and as soon as I'm in a position where I can start recording some things, I will, right? We've got a lot to come up. And I'm going to do a lot to improve on the finale. And we'll talk about it during the finale. The stuff that's going to happen when I get back. And the type of projects we're going to get on to doing. And, you know, kind of milestones that we're going to have. Hopefully with the finale, next episode, which will be the finale, we'll have some guests, some friends. A whole bunch of shit will need to be discussed with them beforehand. And do excuse if the podcast is a little bit iffy, because the whole idea of the finale is we're just going to get drunk on the last episode, and it may be a 2-hour affair or something like that. I know it's going to be a while. I know it's going to be a long, long episode. I try to keep these around an hour 20, maybe an hour 10. First episodes, I think, were like 40 minutes, and that's also perfectly fine. But the next one will be a very long one. Right? We're going to get drunk. We're going to have a great time. I hopefully won't be day drinking. So there'll be a lot of issues with audio, and then audio is going to look terrible, and it's going to be 4 people talking at once. It's going to be a fucking nightmare. But you know, we're gonna talk about it. It'll be a little send off from me to you guys. We've got a couple of announcements to make during the finale. You know, I know it's a very early time to make these finales, but I wanted to have something set in stone. And then when season 2 comes out of Late Night of the Barcade, which we will start telling it up as season 1, episode 2, and all of that shit. When season 2 comes out, we're gonna have a bunch of new shit. We're gonna have a lot of new parts of the podcast. We're gonna have some surprises, some cool things that I know were requested, and hopefully we can get some stuff, get the ball rolling. If I force my friends to do those ball rollings for me, that's what we will do. Hopefully have some more guests on, and we'll talk about it in the finale. So that will be in about 2 weeks' time, around about, so start of July, because I leave at the end of July. So yeah, about the start of July is when I will do the recording, and then it's going to be about 2 hours of just really uncut shit. You know, so it's there's going to be a lot of complaining, a lot of me being sick, and, you know, having to cut that out.Maybe, we'll see. Some stuff will be cut out, of course. But we're trying to go for a big 2 hours and then talk about it, get drunk, have a good time, and then we'll have an after party. If I ever had Patreon, I would also be recording the after party as well. But, you know, it's been a great, fucking awesome ride. And I'm really happy I've got to the position where I can do a season 1 finale of the show. We've got a lot of topic points. It's going to come back stronger. You know, episode 3, I think, was one of my favorites. And it's going to be a lot more like that. A lot more of episode 4, this one. A lot more cool shit going on. All right? And, you know, we'll talk about it then. And I'm very much excited for it. I'm enjoying doing this episode, right? I don't go to the next... Speak English! Sorry. I'm looking forward to the next season. It's going to look good. It's going to look great. We're going to have a great time, right? And we've got a lot of surprises in the mix, which I'll let you guys know when the finale comes around. Right, so getting back into things, right? We've got a couple more topic points to talk about, but as I love to do with this show, is I love to bring out those who subscribe to me. Because we're a small channel, we're a small show, those who subscribe on Spotify, it's a lot harder for me to actually see if you do that. But those who subscribe on YouTube, every time you do, I get a notification. So, you know, from time to time, I'll click on your name and I'll see what you're into, right? See how you are, you know, see the type of person who's looking at the content. Mainly to double check if that individual is a friend of mine. That individual may be a friend of mine. The name BonerLord seems like a friend name, but whatever. So, Mr. BonerLord. For those who do not know, Mr. BonerLord has recently subscribed to the podcast. And they had a public thing, right? And maybe I'm doxing you. Maybe you don't like this, and maybe this will destroy all the fan stuff. So for... yeah, anyone could be called BonerLord. Okay. This is what we do here. Okay, I bring you guys up. Will that stop those in the future subscribing to the channel? Maybe. But this is my sign of approval. The only reason why I'm bringing this up now is because it's very funny, okay? If you subscribe, I'm not going to bring you up every fucking time, okay? But, Mr. BonerLord, right? I'm not going to bring up any of your other stuff. This is not me trying to hurt your feelings or anything. But Mr. BonerLord had subscribed to, I think, another 2 podcasts. One about this guy called Theo Von. I'm sure you've heard of the comedian. And Bobby Lee. I'm sure you have heard of that comedian, right? Now, this individual subscribes to both of them. And now he subscribes to me. Which, in my mind, proves that I am just as funny as the comedian Theo Von and the comedian Bobby Lee. Alright? This proves it, guys. This proves, or girls, and gals, and those, and thous. See what I did? That's a funny joke. Anyway, because I'm so funny like Theo Von and Bobby Lee! I just thought it was a very fun topic, so I've spent the past week gloating about that to small friends here and there regarding the fact that this guy, who believes Theo Vaughn and Bobby Lee are funny, which they are, also believes I am funny, which means I'm just like I'm as cool and as funny and as interesting as the both of them. They might both have way more successful podcasts that are like in the upper echelon of content, but it just goes to show I'm on the same level. Did you want a huge fucking topic point? Not really. This is just a small little fucking side part. This is a side topic, right? We've got a couple more points. In fact, we're getting very close to the end of my topics because this one was fucking tiny. The next one's going to be smaller, right? So, as per the usual, because I listen to a lot of posts, media, and, you know, fucking shows that gives me more information to talk about on the podcast, I, from time to time, will see YouTube shorts related to, you know, the whole, oh, I'm a depressed man, I'm having a horrible time, women suck, X, Y, and Z, which we haven't talked about yet. We'll try and talk about next time and next season a lot more. And this is not going to be about that. But in a particular, and I'm not going to show the video because it's incredibly dangerous, and I don't know if this guy wants to be brought up or anything like that. For a bit of reference, there was a short that I had recently saw, which was like, all it said in the caption was like, divorced husband drives motorcycle at 188 kilometers on the freeway. That's it, right? Terrible fucking, like, incredibly dangerous thing. And you see he's crying and yelling while his motorcycle is driving at an incredibly fast speed through traffic. People may have seen this video, but he's driving through traffic, you know, narrowly avoiding cars and fucking X, Y, and Z. You know, this guy is in a horrible place, 100%. I completely understand it. But he's committing a crime and risking not just his life, but those of others, right? And because this is surrounded by, and I'm sure they had tags, right? That was like, oh, men depressed, mental health, X, Y, and Z shit, right? Because of that, you look in the comments, and I'm sure there's all the way down at the very bottom, there's people saying, like, how this is a bad thing. Every single comment, top posts, was, this is so totally understandable. I get this. You know, this is why women shouldn't divorce their husbands, because we do things like this. And then there's stuff like, this is perfectly normal. I understand this guy wants to commit, and he should be able to do this. And it puts no one in risk. It's all these fucking pseudo-intellectual, autistic fucking men who are sitting in the comments being like, this is what happens when women hate men. This is just mental health right now. Like, this guy's perfectly normal. And I understand where he's coming from. Good on him. You know, these people fucking backing up, oh, I have an appointment tomorrow. Anyway, came up on my phone. There's all these individuals backing up this fucking crazily dangerous fucking scene that's going on with this guy's driving down a fucking road at 188 kilometers per hour, right? You know, firstly, if he hits a car, he's dead, and that other person could be in danger too, right? It's not like no one's gonna get out of this scratched. This is a guy at a terrible position committing a crime because he's mentally unwell. This is not a spokesperson for mental health and the fact that women suck, right? The fucking bro culture on the internet is so goddamn retarded, right? If you're an individual who sits down and sees a person committing suicide because with the caption that says his wife left him, even though you have no idea if that's the case, but apparently his wife left him, right? Don't sit in the comments and say that's a normal thing, because it's not. There are people like, oh, dude, I would want to drive it at 188 kilometers listening to Billy Joel. That's what I want to do. The whole, oh, I want to sit down on a fucking, the male instinct to die on this bench. You're fucking retarded, dude. There is nothing good about trying to kill yourself over a divorce. A terrible fucking thing. But don't go in the comments assuming shit, because there are people like, oh, and I bet you he left him and took all of his money and his shit. And then people in the comments being like, I remember when my wife left me. This is not a moment to fucking grieve together. This is a shitty situation going on. We should all be looking at the situation and being like, this is terrible that he's in a mentally bad position, right? But he's being fucking reckless and retarded by driving down the freeway at 188 kilometers because he had a bad experience, right? And look, throw your fucking pitchforks at me. Shoot your fiery arrows into my flesh. I understand that it's not as simple as that, right? But at the end of the day, you don't take your instances and your bad experiences, however bad they be, and risk your life and the life of another. Suicide is never a cool fucking thing. Dying in a cool way, and I don't think riding at 188 kilometers per hour is a cool way to die, is not a cool thing. It is a suicidal thought. You should not be entertaining that because you had a bad experience. And it's easier said than done when you're in that experience. I am not blaming the individual here, right? I am blaming the individuals sitting in the comments saying this is perfectly normal. And, you know, if the guy ever sees this, which I don't know if he did, right? He could have passed, and if he's doing this, he probably did, right? Sitting in the comments going, oh, this is perfectly normal. The wife shouldn't have left him. This is what I would do. My wife left me and I did the same. Your wife left you, you did the same. That's not a good thing, dude. That's a bad time. You don't look at those instances when something bad happens to you and you say, well, that was perfectly normal and I'm glad I did it. It's a shameful thing to try and kill yourself, dude. Okay? There is no reason for you to do that, right? You may feel like that's the case, and this is not a channel, again, for me to try and improve mental health, but, you know, in times of distress and of times of these moments where you feel like the world's against you and you have to get rid of yourself, you cannot allow yourself to fall prey to that mentality, right? Because it's so very easy to, you know, people believe they're struggling to be that of something to gloat about, and that to spread the wrong messages they gain from that suffering to others, right? Suffering is a quiet thing, and suffering can be done with others, but your individual suffering is your own quiet thing that you should only express to those you love. And those who sit around in these little sesh pits, right? This bro culture, you don't do anything positive. All you do is spread that. You don't create a situation where people feel there are those who experience the same things. Because the people who are saying they experience the same things are telling you it is perfectly normal that you're reacting like this because your wife left you. It's not, right? You are reacting in an abnormal way, and I hope you have people in your life to tell you that. And for those who sit down in these little fucking comic sections, right? Comic sections, these comment mint sections, and, you know, display this whole toxic masculinity shit because you go through something and you want to explain your suffering to other people. Stop. Attention is not what you need, buddy. You are not helping anyone when you say this. You don't, and it's so easy to sit down and type it at a little fort and not really care about what you say, because most people don't care about the things that they say, or don't realize that the things that they say have magnitude and weight. But you understand, this guy may not have seen it, but some other fucking mentally hurt individual will read what you've said and do exactly the same fucking thing because you had to, Because in your mind, you had to sit there and say, my wife left me and I did the same thing. You're perfectly normal. Just don't say it, bud. You don't have to raise your stupid little opinions. You're a fucking dumb little old man who wanted to kill yourself and don't realize that that is not the right fucking thing to do. Whatever conclusion you got to your fucking position and why you're alive now, and I'm glad you're still alive now, you have not displayed any of that in your message of this was a perfectly fine thing to do. Because when you say this is a perfectly fine thing to do to a mentally inept person or a mentally struggling person in these positions, stop saying in these positions, you don't help anyone. You're just creating a sesh pit. And you're all just like these individuals who create who are sitting down with their fucking talking about guns and fucking politics. You're digesting this bile in this goddamn soup kitchen, right? As it poisons you. And you'll continue digesting over and over and over again until it burns a fucking hole through your throat and you cannot speak anymore. And all you need to do is take a step back and understand to leave these groups. Understand that surrounding yourself with those who are telling you what you're doing is okay, it's not a good thing. If you are someone in a position right now, and you, from anything that I've said, have thought to yourself, maybe I'm surrounded by those who are telling me what I want to hear, and are enforcing negative habits on me, leave or distance yourself. Find new friends. Find those who don't believe in the same ideals or deals, because you will end up in the situation where you do something drastic. You will end up in a situation where you have exiled yourself so far from those who are out of this fucking small little sesh pit, the small soup kitchen that you're in. You will exile yourself from them, that you will never truly be able to hear anything other than the words of the fucking soup that you're digesting. And you'll be unhappy. Because those who surround themselves in these toxic environments will become unhappy. You know, or find themselves in a position that will bring them unhappiness, right? In whatever form. And you may not realize that now. You may not realize that tomorrow. But down the line, you will. And you will understand that this is not okay. I'm glad all these topic points came together in a nice little wrap. We've got one more thing, one last little rant to go on. But before we do that, we're going to get into contact. What am I saying? What am I saying? We will be getting into how to get into contact. The typical little thing I do in every single thing, maybe not the finale because I may be too drunk, is how to get into contact, right? If you are someone who has enjoyed any of these topics, who wants me to talk about more topics, if you're someone who just wants to say hi and tell me you hate me, or tell me you love me, go ahead and get into touch at latenightbarcade@gmail.com. That's latenightbarcade@gmail.com. I get this wrong every time, so I'm going to have to click on it and make sure it's Late Night Barcade. Yeah, it's Late Night Barcade. Yeah. I think so. Late Night Barcade. Yeah, okay, cool. Every time, and this is not a fucking hyperbole or anything like that. Every time that I talk about it, I forget about the fucking fact of how to get into touch, right? Like, it just happens every time. I'm even looking at the time. I kind of want to go play some video games. I could do another 30-minute topic. Yeah, I could do another 30-minute topic. Sure. Give you a little extra before we do our finale. But yeah, to get into touch, it's latenightbarcade@gmail.com. Nothing else. latenightbarcade@gmail.com, right? Please get in touch if you'd like to say anything. If you don't want your name brought up in the podcast, just tell me in the email, you know? I have enough mental awareness to understand if this is just fan mail or anything. And if you don't want things brought up, typically I won't even say people's name. I'll make up names. So if you say someone's name, I'll just cut it out, right? So that's perfectly fine. Bring it up. If you're a friend of mine, you have no excuse. Send me a goddamn email. You have no excuse. Send me a Discord message and put in it, in brackets, this is for the podcast. You have no excuse. You're my friends. Support my podcast. Again, to get into contact, that's latenightbarcade@gmail.com. Send anything over. I'm happy to have anything. So far, a friend of mine has promised she will. We'll see to it. All right, see to it. Now I had said that I will do another part. I'm in this kind of leg room where we're now at like 7 an hour yet. Speak English. We're now at an hour. I could either end it now and get out an episode and then do the finale later, or I could talk about what I wanted to talk about, which was Skyrim Online. I can talk about Skyrim Online. Big old delay, big old things. Got another tea, so we're ready to go in. You have me for another 20 minutes, something like that. And in that time, I expect extra parts and an outro. So let's get back into this really quick. So I mentioned it before, Skyrim Online. For those who do not know, or for those who have not seen the increased popularity of the thingamajig, is what I'm gonna call it. Those who may not know, there is now a Skyrim Online. So originally there was like a mod where you could play it online, and it kind of sucked. And this is now an official role-playing server. And for those who do not know, I'm someone who, from time to time, will partake in the D&D and the RP, right? Very much a big part of my personality. And do I get into conversations where no one understands and no one can connect with what I'm saying, and I sound like a guy talking about guns? Yeah, so I understand it. All right. But this particular game was one in Skyrim, so I've grown up in Skyrim, not with Skyrim. I grew up with Oblivion and played Morrowind for quite some time. Too scared of Morrowind, and then when Skyrim came out, that was pretty much all I ever played. Right, I was really invested in Skyrim. And so when a roleplay came out, it really put to question how good I was with the lore. I don't remember a single fucking thing. Turns out most people know more than me, even though I've probably been playing it longer than those who do. But like, whatever. That was a bit of a surprise. So, we go in. It is a very fun community. Very good people. Everyone is willing to interact with everyone, so you don't really get a lot of those iced out moments. There are plenty of people who go up to you to ask things and do a lot of things, because the economy of this game, this is going to be a quick little rant, we're trying to get this over with. Does this have anything to do with what we typically talk about? No. This is just my little extra for you guys, because this is the second to last episode. So, playing the Skyrim game, because the Skyrim Online system is so very much ingratiated with a player-run economy, people are constantly interacting with you, constantly playing their characters, and using the market as a means to roleplay, which is very interesting and really fun in concept, right? Or in execution. When executed to a form of those who require more or want greater RP, that's when the system kind of breaks down a little bit. Everybody in the game is good at the very initial introductions, right? But, like, that is all there is. No one really asks your backstory, unless very specific things. This is a perspective of an outside guy looking in, right? People don't really ask about you. People don't have the role-playing ability to want to create a story outside of, this is our marketing interaction, and this is me walking to a town and meeting a guy, and that's it. Like, a lot of people want to play the NPC, and that's perfectly fine. But the NPC typically asks questions, right? And a lot of people forget that. So it creates a world where there are 400, maybe 500 people playing. A lot of people playing. And only, like, 15 of them are going to ask you anything about your story. And most of them won't, because most people don't know how to broach it, because a lot of people who don't know how to roleplay a lot, and this is like these bigger communities, um, don't know how to breach that topic, to learn more and to create stories, right? Very much what they want is just that, oh, I'm a merchant, or oh, I'm a blacksmith and I'm doing the blacksmith RP, working with a small guild or a hunter's guild or what have you. And that's perfectly fine for new players, right? But for someone like me who's been role playing since I was a wee lad, right? I kind of want a little bit more. And after, and this is where the rant begins, and we'll be very quick because I also know that we've got 20 minutes to get through this. When a player like me wants to experience something more, it is so goddamn limiting, and it comes into the same like manifolds that most RP finds itself in, right? There, because of the nature of Kazal, which is the game of Skyrim Online, I forgot to mention, because I'm such a great fucking host, the game is called Kazal, right? That's the server, and I'll probably be on it tonight, right? Because I love the game. So because of the nature of Kazal, it creates this kind of, facade to a degree where there is roleplay, but there is no depth to the roleplay because a lot of people don't know how to provide the depth. And I came to find some information about that that just really annoyed me. So it creates a situation where if you want to have that depth, you need to find friends who also have the capacity to be with those in power. Because you see, Kazal, right, to a degree, allows you to do whatever you want. You can make up stories if you want, and you can role play it, but no one comes from a background where like text RPs where you had to build something by yourself. So they expect like a real world immersive experience. So they expect an immersive thing to happen, right? So their backstory has to include something that's real and in some level of real fucking it's just something that is in the game that is actually happening, because there are those who just don't know you can make whatever the fuck you want. It's a role-playing game, right? And so because of that, you have situations where the only time you can actually have those real things happen is when you have someone playing with you known as a game master. So for those who know D&D, it's a DM. Those who know like text RPs, it's a moderator, right? Those who create those little situations. So you're playing, what it means is that you can have all this RP and all you want, but no one wants to just make their own fucking random shit. And when it does happen, it's kind of a little odd. And I have played with someone who does their own fucking cool shit without a fucking GM, and it's cool as fuck, right? But because we're surrounded with those who don't understand that you can make whatever you want in a role-playing game, it creates a situation where everyone in the game, to a degree, outside of those who are our peers, want to find a GM and join a group, because all groups have GMs, most groups, so that they can create the RP, right? And so they can have their RPs and stuff. And so what that means is that for someone like me, who wants to RP with someone, there are so little people with the capacity to actually do an RP and build their own fucking story without the point of a GM, right? That it just turns into, oh, you should come with me to join my group. Oh, I have to wait until the group actually invites me so that we can do this RP. What is the point of RP if we have to wait for a group? Like, there is that degree with the RP that they want to have a role-playing game, but it's so gameplay focused that there is no roleplay happening, right? So it means that if I want to have those RP experiences without meeting people, and I have met a individual, unfortunately we live on completely different polar opposites of the goddamn world, so we're never on at the same time. Because of that, it creates situations where if I'm wanting to interact with someone, it has to be someone willing to sit through all of this basic bullshit to make their own shit, right? Or I have to join a faction with a GM, right? And, like, the factions available, and because there's this whole extra RP going on in the background, all this war playing, right? The only factions available to play are those that are like, oh, we're the collective of workers, because they're entirely based upon the economy, which is perfectly fine. You can have factions based on the economy. That's the point, right? And for players who like that, that's there for them. The only other groups are war gamers who are like, we're in an arena and you will lose your character if you die. And it makes it, and I understand, right? Having stuff to placate those war gamers. It's good to have all these groups, right? Those who enjoy the market, those who enjoy the role, the war and the roleplay of war, right? Losing their characters and having these giant fucking battles and what have you, right? I understand that. But there is no middle ground for a guy like me to find those RP games. You know, there is this little stigma in the community. And this is entirely becoming the rant now. There's a stigma in the community where, in order to join these more roleplay focused groups, because they are there, right? There will be someone there saying, "Well, John, there is the RP groups in Kazal, but a lot of these RP groups require an in-character joining of the group, which is impossible for someone like me who does not spend every day in Kazal, right? Who is not on the normal fucking 3 p.m. times, right? I join at like they're 7 p.m. They're late nights, right? It means that I have very few ways of interacting with these people, and I would rather send an application in an OOC, for those who do not know, out of character, right? I would rather send you one of those and then create an in-character, in-game roleplay situations where we interact than just fighting you in-game. I'm sorry, but there are so many people out there who do not have the capacity to, you know, play the game the way you want them to do in character. I want to join your faction. I would spend the same amount of time working in your faction, right? And do everything the same. I just don't have the capacity to be able to spend 14 fucking weeks trying to find a group that I don't even know works for me, because you haven't said in your goddamn stupid faction list that we're a roleplay focused group. It annoys the fuck out of me. And then there are those groups that are more roleplay focused that do have applications, but guess what? They only let like 10 people in, and 100 people are going for it every day, right? It means that if a player like me wants to roleplay in a capacity that is like beyond that of just, oh, I say hi to someone and I ask, how's your day, right? Which is perfectly fine to have that distinction, right? I don't mind doing faction shit. It means that the only two things that I have to do, the only two things I can do is join a fucking war-focused thing and probably lose my character. A character who I've created does not care about the war, or join a merchant guild who don't care about roleplay, who only care about the fucking fake septums that they get in the fake game. So it creates a situation where someone like me doesn't get to enjoy this like extra roleplay that would be happening if I was able to sit down and play it properly, right? And don't get me wrong, I have met those who are making their own cool stories and all of that. But again, they're at like completely different fucking hours to me, and that's just, you know, that's the reality of how things work. I understand it. But, you know, it's in a roleplay game, it should never be a case where I have to now invite all my fucking friends to just play the game in a roleplay scenario and make my own fucking stuff. I want to find that organic gameplay. I want to see someone who is trying to build up a story of how they're being chased by werewolves, and I want to interact with that guy, right? There are people who are not doing that because, you know, it is a public server, and a lot of people aren't like natural role players. Here comes the second part of my rant. I know this is completely different to Late Night at the Barcade, but I'm ranting. I'm angry, right? And this is just the extra part. This is the little bonus part. Feel free to skip past it, right? Um, in this fucking situation, right? There is the one caveat: the whitelist server. For those who do not know, the whitelist server for a lot of games are typically the servers that you apply for and that have all these RP people. So you would get a 8-page report and you would fill it out. This is my character. This is how I played. This is how long I've role played, and you'll do an interview or something, right? And it's small groups of people being invited into the whitelist server. And in those servers, you typically find those who are creating these giant role play stuff, right? Turns out, to get into it, you can't. You have to be invited by someone who thinks you're a good role player. And in order to do that, folks, you have to know someone a part of it. And the people who are typically a part of it are those who are part of the factions. And you understand the little dichotomy that's going on right now, where in order to get those RPs, you have to join the shitty fucking merchant guild, who you're not doing any RP with, or you join the fucking RP war guild, and you're doing war guild RP. And if you don't do that, if you're not a player who cares about war, like me, I don't give a fuck about war, and smacking each other by pressing fucking M1, M2, M1, M2 over and over again, then you're someone like me who has to find these people in the normal fucking world, but these people aren't there anymore because they're on the whitelist server. Someone like me, with all of this capacity, should be able to apply for the whitelist server, right? And this is not me fucking burning down the fucking bridges to have this thing happen. This, again, just the extra bonus rant, right? Of the show. It just is so stupid, and I hate when RP games, because I thought Kazal was something new, right? I dipped my toes in here and there, and I saw the underlying, like, oh, the RP is not that great, and like X, Y, and Z, and that's fine. But when someone desires more than that, and you're starting to create the character that you've built, right? I want more than I'm just sitting down. I got to a point where I'm like, oh, I have 1,000 septims, like $1,000 because I played the market. I don't want to play the market anymore. This is boring. I have enough to buy a weapon and buy some services with my money. I don't want to. I want to RP, right? I want to play the game, right? The RP game. And I don't... And my character is, like, not built for what you've given, the basis of what you've given me. He doesn't fight in wars. He doesn't do X, Y, and Z. And maybe this is my fault. Maybe I should, a little Chungus, maybe I'm a Chungus fuck who should build himself a fucking war character so that he can fight in a war. And then he can enjoy stuff. But I'm sorry. There should be avenues for people to be able to RP in a way by applying for it and setting it up. I don't have the time to sit down for 60 fucking hours and get something good going on. And now some guy right now is sending me a fucking message being like, oh, the faction's updated. What's going on? Anyway, alright. There's a bunch of shit going on. I'm gonna have a look at that. That's what I'm gonna do straight after this. I have 2 things that I'm going to do. I'm gonna go work out, and then I'm gonna fucking play some Kazal, because although I hate it, although I'm mad and angry and annoyed, I will keep coming back time and time again, because it is very fun, and I do meet very cool people. And I'm in a position now where, like, once I start working, I probably will just move back into D&D, and then never play Kazal again, because it's so goddamn hard. But, you know, we'll cross the bridge when it comes to it. And that was the bonus episode. Not the bonus episode, like the bonus 20-minute segment for those, a little gift from me to you. This has been Late Night at the Barcade, episode 4. I cannot state enough how much it's meant for those who have joined me across the ride so far. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We've got one last episode for this season coming out in a couple weeks' time. I've got another bit of training to do that's coming up, and then hopefully before then I'll have the episode 4 sent out. Episode 3, from the time of recording, will be coming out very, very soon. So this is where I say adieu. Thank you again for showing up and looking into these episodes. Can't wait for season 2. Remember, next episode you'll see will be the finale. And I will hopefully have some guests. We'll do a lot of cool points. We'll talk about a lot of stuff that's going on in the future. A lot of new surprises. We're going to have a good time. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you want to get into contact, it's latenightbarcade@gmail.com. That's latenightbarcade@gmail.com. Thank you again. How do I end these things? I keep asking every time. Oh, yeah. Be brave. Be bold. Stay beautiful, people. Good night.